started for everyone.
Okay. If you can just let me know when you can see my screen, that'd be wonderful.
Got you.
Excellent. So my name's John Condron. I've been a SharePoint guy for a long time now. I think that nowadays, though, like it's impossible to just be a SharePoint guy. Like you need to understand the whole kind of Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Before I was a SharePoint guy, I was a .NET developer. Before that, I was a Dynamics Nav consultant. Before that, I was a .NET developer, and I just kind of fell into SharePoint. So I work for a company called CloudCover in Glasgow, and we do lots of kind of digital transformation stuff. So around Teams, SharePoint, and the kind of whole Microsoft 365 world. So in this session, I'm going to just give an overview of SharePoint and the different types of sites that you can create and how they are made up, and then show you how they kind of can integrate with other aspects of Office 365 or other line of business applications. I'll just get straight into it, really. So SharePoint Online lets you create two different types of sites. It lets you create communication sites and it lets you create team sites. Communication sites are like this here, it's on the screen. Lots of companies use communication sites for their intranet, and it's mostly for like pushing out data or letting your users consume data rather than them contributing to it or work in any collaborative way. So like a huge component of it is this news section. We'll talk about how this page is made up later, but it's for pushing out information that is useful to your staff and information that they need to get to quickly. Then the other option, or the other type of site we've got is a team site, and most of you will have seen a team site or used a team site, albeit unknowingly, if you didn't understand that a team site is what gets created at the back of a team when you create a team in Teams. So you can see here that I've got this C3 Digital A&R site and C3 Digital Finance site, and both of them were created when I created these teams. So SharePoint is like the kind of infrastructure for managing documents in Teams, and OneDrive and all that kind of thing is built on the same kind of principle as SharePoint. They are made up of lists, which is for unstructured data, just to make sure I make that clear for the it's not a relational database folk. It's not like there's been lots of scenarios that I've done it and I've seen it where people have tried to use SharePoint lists like a relational database, and you just end up in all sorts of trouble. So if it looks like it needs a relational database, then you should. And as we were talking before the kind of call started, there I think Dataverse kind of fills that gap now, and I hope anyway, and it's looking like that's going to be a real game changer in that respect. As well as lists, we've got document libraries for storing data. Document libraries can be as simple or as simple as dumping files in a file store. And I hate it when I see that because like it can be so much more. You can like attach metadata to documents and make it much easier to find documents that are needed and to find the actual filter down a huge list to get to exactly what you're looking for. Also, in SharePoint document libraries, we try and discourage creating folders because a folder structure makes sense to the person who made the folder structure, but maybe doesn't make sense to the person who's looking for the data. So if you can present them with a huge amount of data and the ability to filter down and find that information, in general, that's the principle that's the best practice within SharePoint. So what I'm going to do in the first instance is have a look at our A&R site. As I said, this gets spun up as soon as I created a team. And when I think about it and how when I used to do web development or stuff like that, and how difficult it was to make a website, and now I can spin up a team, everything kicks off in the background to create this kind of structure for me to build upon. So if we want to create a list, and lists now is become an app in and of itself within Office 365 now, but it's, for all intents and purposes, it's a SharePoint list. So if we go ahead and create a list, we now get this option to create one from a template, which is great because you can then see different things that might be useful to you when you want to create your custom list. So if we create an asset manager, say, and we just use that template, great, and boom, like 3 clicks, and we've got something to work with. If we click on new, we get the kind of default form, and we can add an image. We'll have an image of Wee Eddie. Fill in all the relevant details. Right, let's do that. It's from Microsoft. He's a printer. So you fill in all the relevant details and hit save. And then we start to build our data, and like as you can see there, like less than a minute, and we've got something. I think that's really important, that what we're creating is really simple, straightforward, but can become so powerful once you've got that level of data in it. So if we then take a look at a document library, like I mentioned, this is the general folder that gets created from the general channel and Teams. But if I've created this A&R documents, it's the same principle. You can upload the document, files, folders. We'll upload another photo of Eddie. Then we can say, okay, I want to not only capture the actual document, but I want to make that document a bit smarter and add some data to it. So we can say, this is a status. There we go, somebody didn't mute. So we can then say, okay, I want to make that status of this photo of Eddie in progress. And once you start building up these documents, we'll upload another one just to give you an example. And we'll make that one complete. Then you can start creating different views based on the different information you've got. So here we can see that we're looking at all documents at the moment, and we can filter and say, okay, I want to just filter this, and these filters get built dynamically based on the columns that you add. So if you add another column for like maybe a value on an item or things like that, these filters will build up dynamically, and it works much the same as your Amazon shopping, and you can just click on this one and say, okay, I only want to see those documents that are complete. When you've got a filter applied like that, you can then say, okay, I want to save this as all documents complete. And then you start building up your different views of the same information. So by default, you'll see all documents, but if I want to see something more complex, I want to see complete. And those views get saved. And as I said, it's really straightforward, but really useful and powerful. Let me just see. So we've got our 2 team sites, this A&R and this finance, and they are members of our central hub site, which is our communication site here. And really all that does is it gives us this global navigation, so we can move between A&R finance and our main hub site. But it also does other kind of other things behind the scenes. So you can see here that one of the main areas of this communication site is this news section, or this news web part. And what you can do is, if you're in the A&R team and you want to post a news item and say, okay, let's create that. We'll pick an image and just say VPG is awesome. So at the moment, this news article only exists within the A&R team. Only the A&R team will ever see that. But we can push that news article up to the main intranet site, and you can put things in place to say that this is going to be approved, or that it gets submitted to someone to say, I think this should be in the main company news, and that can get approved, and then it can get shown here. But we can, if we edit our page here, you can see that in our news section, we can decide whether we want the source of this news to be just from this site, all sites in the hub. We can pick sites, or you can try and tailor the news for a user. So if this is your intranet site, and if you go to it and you've been interacting with mostly A&R, then you'll only see, or you'll get promoted news from the A&R site. If you've been interacting mostly with finance documents in the finance team, you'll see mostly news from the finance team. So depending on the size of the company, I guess, like that can be something that's really, really, really powerful. It's straightforward. Again, going back to my web developer roots, like making changes to websites used to be so complicated, but a SharePoint site is made up of pages containing web parts. So if we edit this page, you can see here I've got my news web part, my quick links web part, my documents web part, and an activity web part that shows you activity that's been on the site. So let's say we don't want to show these documents. What we want to show is another web part. So by default, you get all these kind of standard web parts, and there's loads of web parts out there that you can import into your tenancy. You can use SharePoint Framework to develop your own web parts. But let's just say we want to show the group calendar, and we want to show the C3 Digital A&R group calendar. And we publish that. So again, really straightforward to just make changes, make things that, like, going back would have been a lot of effort. You'd have to get an expert to do it. You can give someone ownership of the SharePoint site, and they can take it and make it look and feel exactly how they want it. If we go back to our communication site, it's the same principle. Oh, I've just edited that. So if we edit that again, it's the same principle. It's made up of web parts. We've got our countdown web part here, weather, the different time zones. This, my recommendations, it uses graph to kind of try and recommend documents that exist within the site to try and promote them to your users. We've got a bit of navigation here. You can learn about the company, benefits, all that kind of stuff. We've got a wee video from Stream that you can embed in your site. It's easy enough to move things around. If we want to say, okay, we want that here now, just drag and drop, republish, and you're away. And so anyone who goes to that site now will see those changes reflected immediately. The communication sites, I think that they're an easy sell for sales guys who go to CEOs or whatever and say, look at this, it looks great, it can have all the information you want, and the CEO thinks this is brilliant, we can do wonders with this. But it's not effective unless there's someone managing it, someone who takes ownership, and someone who really pushes it and updates it and makes it relevant. One of the things that I think might help with that is Microsoft are rolling out a thing called the Home Site app, which will allow you to embed your home site as a tab within Teams. So I think that's might kind of put a wee bit of life into intranets, because people don't need to go away from Teams to get to their intranet. So if we go back to our communication site here, like I'm pretty happy with this. I think it looks really nice. And again, like, you can spin this up in 5 minutes. The SharePoint Patterns and Practices team have set up this SharePoint Lookbook. So you can take a wee look at examples, find one that you like the look of, and effectively it gives you somewhere to start. So if we pick this guy, and I say, okay, I want to add this to my tenant. And we'll call it VPG. And we just give it a title, give it a name, where we want it to be, hit provision. And we'll kick that off. So obviously, because this is a demo and there's every chance that it'll die because it's a demo, we'll park that there and we'll come back in a couple of minutes. If we go back to our communication site, I showed you how we could create our asset manager list, but we can also create custom lists, and that's what I've done here for C3 Digital Music. I've got a list of artists, and you can see there's me, Carly Connor, Brown Bear. I'm the only one that's signed so far. Carly's still a prospect, Brown Bear's still a prospect. And I think that one of the cool things that's come out of the kind of modern SharePoint is the ability to change how you view SharePoint lists. So you can see here, this is just a standard list. We can, I mean, it's fine, but like, it's kind of boring. So we can do some format. They've also introduced this gallery view, which I've not used very much, but when you select the gallery view, again, it looks a bit nicer, a bit more user-friendly for your users. And I've created this, or I've taken a sample from the SharePoint community and created this all items in a kind of card view. So it's the same data, just with a bit of JSON formatting that lets you view the data in a bit of a more user-friendly way. And you can still get to the options for editing or deleting or sharing. And just on that note, in this example here, let's go back to the all items. In this example here, I've changed the default form to a Power Apps form. So if you choose to customize with Power Apps, that will take you to here, and you've got the standard kind of Power Apps studio that you can do anything that you can do in Power Apps, you can do in here. We've just got this SharePoint integration, which it lets you link to like your selected. So the default items for your form is this SharePoint integration .selected. And so I think that makes a difference as well, you know, like, because a lot of the time, or a lot of the complaints about SharePoint was people who don't like how it looks, or they don't like how it works, they don't like how the forms are. And I agree completely in that respect. It used to be hugely difficult to customize forms and make them a bit more user-friendly, whereas now we've got the power of Power Apps to get that data into a list. And then extending from that, we can make a regular Power Apps app or Canvas app that can capture the data, use SharePoint as your data source, just for simple things to get that data from a mobile device into your SharePoint list. And then from there, you can do as you please. You can use Microsoft Forms as another vehicle to get that data into your list. And kind of on that note of being able to do something more complex, I've created a flow here that will take our Carly, convert her from a prospect to signed. I'll also go away and create a thing called a document set, which is a kind of smarter or a bit more, what's the word? A bit of a nicer way of managing your documents rather than that standard just upload a document and dump it. So if we look here, this is a document set for me. When I got signed, that's what happened here, that created this. And you can see our documents here. So if we go back to our artists and we'll sign Carly. Just give that a wee second to run. And as always on a demo, it takes much longer than you expect. So there we go, we've got Carly signed. It's gone away and generated our document set for Carly and automatically put in that Carly needs a contract, Carly needs a press release, we want a sales prediction. So if you imagine an example that I thought about while I was putting this together would be like a kind of onboarding thing for HR. So you could have instead of a list of artists, you have a list of candidates for a job. Then they, once you decide, okay, we're going to employ John, that could run the flow, spin up this document set for John becoming a new employee with a welcome letter, a contract, and because you've got we've got these kind of word templates, you can use the quick parts to pre-populate or to populate areas within that document based on the name of the artist or the name of the candidate or whatever information that you're capturing. You can use quick parts to pre-populate that document. You open it up. If it's a welcome letter, print it off, send it to the successful candidate. And what I did for all you Dynamics guys and Power Platform guys is, as well as, again, it was just to show you that the SharePoint lists doesn't have to be the end of the story. So when Carly got signed, the flow also created an account for her in my model-driven app. So you can see Carla there, and it also created her as a vendor in my Business Central. So then now she can get paid. So yeah, like I said, I wanted to just kind of give you an overview of all of the things that, or a few of the things that SharePoint can do. When I spoke to Paddy about doing this, I found it really difficult to find something these days that SharePoint does that's cool, other than be part of like the Microsoft 365 world, because it's so like like Flow is the kind of the star of this show. Flow is the one that does all the good work by pulling together the functions that SharePoint can do. And I think I've just got an email there that my site has been provisioned. So this is the site that we provisioned from our PMP provisioning engine. So you can see there, like, this is a great start for you. You know, this is something. If you want to spin up an intranet for your company, you're off to a great start. And you just need to edit it, brand it with your company logo, do all that kind of thing. But you've got your kind of this thing called the mega menu up here that you can edit and customize to suit your company. And I mean, I think for something that you can fire up in a few minutes, I think it's pretty impressive. But I think that's the end of my rambling. If anyone's got any questions, that'd be wonderful.